I'm going to talk to you today about a hope for equality. Today, I think it's more important than ever to talk about equality for all. We live in a world where we deal with different genders, ethnicities, races, and how people identify with themselves from others. Every human deserves to be treated like you would want to be treated, though. But let's face it, not everyone in this world thinks everyone should be treated equal. Some people in this world treat someone different just by their gender, ethnicity, race, or identity. Let's all take a second to think about a time where someone judged you based on their first impression of you, but how they saw you was not you at all. How did you feel? I bet you didn't feel good because I know when someone makes a first impression on me, it irritates me that they didn't get to know the real me. It's so important that we don't look at everything in life through a single narrative because we will never get the full story that way. But what made me step out of my day to day grind to realize we need to make a change was my child literature class. Throughout my children's literature class, we read these books about people that were facing inequalities based on their race, ethnicity, or identity, but all the main characters showed a hopefulness that they would just be seen as equal. This resonated with me tremendously how these characters could remain hopeful through all the adversity they faced from being different. Not only were these main characters hopeful, but they didn't have any hatred towards the people who were treating them with this injustice. It was amazing to me how these main characters weren't spiteful towards these people who were treating them unequal. The overreaching theme I found in all these books was a hope for equality. Not only did these books resonate with me, but a speech that we heard that was given by Redeemed Bishop called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors made a reader think even more in depth how books can be learning tools for how we fit into this world. After watching Redeemed Bishop's interview, I saw the books we read in a different light. The biggest thing I took away was how books had predominantly white characters in them when I was growing up, and very little portrayed minorities in a good limelight, if at all. Also, how important it is to have a variety of books about different races so children have windows or sliding glass doors, as Redeemed Bishop puts it, to learn more about themselves or others that are different from them. The quote Redeemed Bishop says, when children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in the society of which they are part of. This proves how important it is to create books equally for everyone and not how damning a single narrative can be. Bishop goes on to argue that it's also important to have different races portrayed in books because if children only see reflections of themselves in the books, children will grow up with an exaggerated self sense of their importance and value in the world. These books give the children a window into the multicultural world they live in and the understanding that they are only one group in society. After the speech given by Redeemed Bishop, I realized a lot of the books I read as a child were predominantly white, but never realized it when I was young. I can't relate to how it would have been to read books with characters that I couldn't relate to. It also made me realize of how some of the things I learned growing up were single narrative stories. If I've always tried to be a critical thinker and put myself in other people's shoes, but also realize much where we are shaped by the influences around us that it happens subliminally. I realized now how important books like these are for our children to develop their own understanding of the multicultural world we live in, not just the single narrative story told by one. And then the books we have on the slide two here is going from left to right is going to be Happy by Nappy by Bell Hooks, The Story of Ferdinand by Murnau Leaf, and then Read a Crayon Story by Michael Hall, and The Lion and the Mouse by Jerry Pinkey. And then the last book is Frederick's Journey by Doreen Rappaport. These were the books that really just stood out throughout this class and really made a big impact on my theme for this speech. Very few people have instilled, though, the saying to not judge a book by its cover because there is still prejudice people face in their daily lives based on religion, gender, sexuality, age, beliefs, disability, occupation, and education, and etc. We're all guilty on judging someone based on a quick first impression of them. But how do we as a community gain equality for everyone? That's the $1,000,000 question. But I think if every human tries to be a role model for the next, it would catch on like wildfire. There are 4 main points I laid out on how I think a community can work towards achieving equality for all. Those 4 points are showing unconditional love to everyone, being non-judgmental to all, showing acceptance to all, by being strong through adversity. If we all started to follow these points, we would live in a world that would promote more growth. Love is an important trait for everyone to have. Everybody on this earth has a right to be here and to be loved like you. We need to show love to everybody we come in contact with in our lives, no matter their race, gender, ethnicity, or belief. It's the easiest thing to do in your life to combat inequalities in the world. I saw love throughout the books I read in my childhood literatures, even though the main characters faced inequalities throughout the books. The image on the left is from Happy Nappy by Bell Hooks, where this is a group of African American girls holding hands with a sentence that says, "Happy with the lock that twist and curl." There is a stereotype that African Americans have bad hair, but in this image, it shows that they love their hair. This book is great at showing that you should embrace and love the different traits you might have from the average human. Sometimes we focus how we treat other people, but equality also starts with us loving ourselves for who we are and not who society might not want us to shape into. The top right image is from the story of Ferdinand by Monroe Leaf, showing Ferdinand just laying around enjoying the flowers. The bottom right image is from Red A Crayon story by Michael Hall, showing all the crayons finally accepting the red crayon who truly is blue. The image shows a lot of love and acceptance towards the red crayon. Red Crayons, A Story is a great book showing how it can be hard for someone who is different from the mass societal norm to fit in, to accept themselves for who they are. But at the end of the book, the pink crayon shows love and acceptance to the red crayon who identifies as a blue crayon, which ends up making the crayon identify easier as the blue crayon. For example, let's take a look on how the norm treats homosexuals in our society in the past. Most homosexuals for the longest time have been treated as being taboo or had something wrong with them, which in turn has created them to not be open about being gay. But recently society has been more open to homosexuals and accepting that them being is different is okay. This acceptance and love has led them to being treated more equal in society. Non-judgmental. Being non-judgmental is hard for humans in today's society. We have ideas being planted into our head subliminally since we were little kids by our parents, media, family, and friends. Everything around us shapes us slowly into the person we become as an adult. Everyone throughout this process starts to make up their own beliefs or opinions. It's hard for a human not to judge someone based on their first impression. It's wired into the sociological of how humans interact with each other, but we have to make sure that we do not write a single narrative judgment of someone without truly getting to know them. We as a society need to have tools around us like these children literature books that push our minds to think out of our comfort zones. The 2 images above showed characters in the children's literature books being non-judgmental and how we can look at them as role models for how we should be. The image on the left is from the story of Ferdinand by Monroe Leaf, where the bull closest to us is the mother of Ferdinand. Ferdinand is the main character in the book, and he is a bull. Ferdinand is no ordinary bull, though. Ferdinand doesn't like to butt heads with the other bulls, even though this is typical bull behavior. Ferdinand's mom doesn't judge Ferdinand or push him to be like the other bulls. Ferdinand's mom just wants Ferdinand to be happy. I think we can be more like Ferdinand's mom. People around us are going to be different, but we have to learn to not judge them for who they want to be. We have to train ourselves to realize people being different from us is what makes this world great. The image to the right is from Red, a crayon story by Michael Hall, where the pink crayon is telling the red crayon, "Will you make a blue ocean for my boat?" This image represents the pink crayon being non-judgmental towards the red crayon. The red crayon wants to be blue, and the pink crayon is encouraging the red crayon to be want to be even if it's different than the rest. We all need to encourage people around us to be the best them they can be. Acceptance. Acceptance is the word we all have to try to live with every day. Everybody isn't always going to see eye to eye. We are going to be different in many ways to the next person. There is always going to be someone that has a different gender, race, ethnicity, or beliefs than you. But that is what is great about the world, no? I know as humans we look for friends that we have the same ideas or beliefs as us, even the same gender, ethnicity, or race. I also know that we were brainwashed by a young age by our environment around us to think a certain way about things around us. And we're never totally going to agree with everyone's opinions, but think if everyone was just like you, how boring would the world be if everyone was the same? So the next time you don't agree with someone, just accept the fact that this is what makes humans great. Two forms of acceptance I saw in the books we read through our children literature books are represented in the images above. The image to the left is from Red, a crayon story by Michael Hall, where the red crayon wants to be blue so bad, which in the book represents him being homosexual, but throughout the book some crayons keep telling him he is not blue, he is red, till this image where the pink crayon says, "Will you try?" The pink crayon is telling the red crayon that you can be blue if you want, and that the pink crayon will accept him no matter what. As we talked about earlier, the pink crayon accepting the red crayon that wanted to be a blue crayon helped the red crayon being more comfortable being who he truly wanted to be. The image on the right is from The Lion and the Mouse by Jerry Pinkey, where the lion at the end of the book accepts the mouse as his friend. The book represents two different animals that normally wouldn't get along. A lion would normally be a predator to a mouse, but in this book, the mouse risks his life to save the lion, which ends up them accepting each other. Strength is probably the hardest trait to show in your daily life. It's easy to just overlook the inequalities people see in their daily lives. It takes a really strong person to stand up to the inequalities people face that really doesn't have much to do with them. But we need a lot of people that are strong enough to stand up to inequalities people face. The image on the left is from Frederick's Journey by Doreen Rappaport, showing Frederick's trying to learn how to read. Frederick was trading biscuits to white children in exchange for them teaching him how to read, even though if they got caught by the white adults, they would be punished heavily. It took a lot of strength for the children to go against the norm. This page in the book resonated with me the most out of anything we read in our child literature class. It was amazing to me that one of these white children would risk being beaten or worse by their parents if they were caught teaching a black boy how to read. But also that Frederick would risk trying to learn how to read when if he got caught he would be severely punished. The image on the top right is from The Lion and the Mouse by Jerry Pinkey, where showing the mouse trying to save the lion from the hunter's trap. It took a lot of strength by the mouse to save the lion because if he was caught by the hunters, the mouse could have been harmed. The bottom right image is from Happy to Be Nappy by Bell Hooks, showing an image of an African American child being happy to have nappy hair even though it's known not to be a desired trait. The African American child is showing strength in the picture that she is happy to be herself and nobody else. The strength these characters showed should remind us that we can be just as strong and go against the societal norms the media brainwashes us to believe we should follow. And then Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. This is so true when we talk about the fight for equality. Equality for all will not be easy, but when it starts with every one of us focusing on being an example for the next person, truly knowing to get to know someone for who they are and not for who they appear to be. No person should be described by a single narrative. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time to listen to my TED Talk and go out there in the world to become the role models I know we all can be.